Is Joni and Christy here again for Yes and for Democracy. And today's episode is called Mayday, Mayday. And there's a dual meaning for Mayday. There is the Mayday activities that are going on right now for uh, activism, collective activism against billionaires. Uh, and Mayday is also a distress call for airplanes. And we do have some distress right now. What do you think, Christy?
Oh yeah, when you said that, it made me think of an upside down flag because I saw someone who had a protest sign that has the flag upside down and says distress, distress, distress across the bottom, which of course is what's going on. Like this is not normal. This is put your oxygen masks on, people, because we're experiencing very heavy turbulence. And what are we going to do about it? So this may let's wait till the midterms. Let's hope something changes. But instead going, this is what's important to us. This is what matters to us. We have a say, particularly collectively. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today is the collective versus the individual coming out to make a difference.
Right. And the US has a long history of collective activism. In looking at unions, unionization, we needed to band together to get better working conditions. If you think back to around 1900, there was all of these. This was the rise of the robber barons and the years prior to that. And so there was a lot of people who worked in factories 7 days a week, 12, 16 hours a day, children as young as 8 going
Children.
to factories. And they would do things like bolt the door so that people couldn't leave or take things with them. And if you were hurt on the job, there was no compensation for that. You were just out and replaced by someone else. And what happened was journalists and other people, politicians, shone a light into those conditions, and it was not acceptable. One of the stories is about the what is it? I haven't forgotten it. The Triangle Shirtwaist factory that was in 1911. And Christy and I both thought of this week because Frances Perkins is one of my idols. Someone Christy likes too. She was the Secretary of Labor under Franklin Roosevelt, but she was influenced by seeing this in 1911, where the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, all these young women who were working in locked conditions, when a fire broke out, they couldn't leave. And so many of them jumped out the windows to their death. And she witnessed this. And she said, never more, never more. Let's try to fix this.
Which is a great example of seeing a wrong and doing your best to right the wrong. How do we address this in a way that's good for all? Because having a situation like that, obviously horrific for those women, but it's also bad for society in general to have those kind of conditions, to not be able to be comfortable knowing that you're okay, that you're safe, that you can do your work. And also, in this day and age, particularly like litigation, if you're a person who owns a place like that, knowing that if you're violating laws, you're more likely to get sued versus then who knows, they probably, I don't know, I don't know the history of what happened to the owner, but back then, if there wasn't any regulation, oh well, we just can do whatever we want. And all of us speaking up together to say, this is not okay, whether it's back then or now, then we can do something that's supportive of health and productivity and equity. And I mean, that's the danger word. But it then lends itself to making us better people, making us more compassionate toward one another. Like, how could you see someone jump out a window and not be moved? I mean, I think that's why it was so telling for them. And that time is to see the actual destruction. And that's
Right.
one of the things Joni and I were talking about, that some of the things that are going on now, it's not so visceral and visual as it was back in the day. So I think that's part of what the challenge is now, is to bring things to light. And the more they try to snuff out good journalism, the more difficult it is for that kind of stuff to get out. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on visibility.
Well, there is still real harm. I mean, I've got lots of thoughts that tried to bring together. There is still real harm. Even though today we are standing on the shoulders of people who fought for rights, fought for safety, fought for, I'll use that equity word too, fought for value, that their own lives had value. And now we're still fighting for that, but it's harder to see, as Christy was saying. If you think about Walmart employees, it's about 30% of Walmart employees who also require public assistance with Medicaid or food stamps. So they're not being paid a living wage. And the cost of that gets put on all of us, whereas the people at the top are making their money. There's no questioning that. Yet paying someone for their value somehow seems to be, well, if I can get away with not paying someone, then I'm going to get away with not paying someone, because why should I pay someone if there's some other motivation, some other way for them to get compensated? Yeah, and Rick
This
said,
to me speaks to, our values.
yeah.
If your value is simply making money and grabbing as much money as you can, money and perhaps power, if those are your two motivations, then of course other people are going to suffer because you're going to be leveraging off of them. And that's why I love the whole union idea of people, they come together, they have an official organization. Yeah, of course, there's some bureaucracy, I'm sure, then in terms of, the way they make their rules within the organization and so on. But they say together we have a much stronger voice than an individual. An individual at Walmart complaining, they're probably going to get fired. If you have a group of people that come together and they go, here are our requests in order to make this a higher quality place to live, to work, and increase our quality of life, which then pays off everywhere, even though it's intangible in some ways, tangible in some and intangible in others, then we all benefit. It's just bizarre to me, but it's obviously a thing that we still are in a place where we're like, exploitation is good. Let's exploit our resources. Let's exploit people. Let's exploit how we make money. It's kind of gross, but I mean, we all have within us these human qualities that are not our better side. Hopefully, most of us are able to go, oh, I just noticed myself doing something I don't like too much. But some of these people seem to have no restraints on them at all, which is kind of
Well,
shocking.
there is a human element to that we do need guardrails, that's where the laws and rules and regulation, and in years past, probably not as much today, shame was also a guardrail. So if you were seen to exploit someone and were shamed by that, then you would possibly change your what you do. But one of the points that Christy just made, I think, is worth exploring, is that there are these intangible benefits to paying people a living wage. That it's not just, oh, yes, now they have more ease in their life, which is important. but it goes beyond them, beyond their family. It improves their health because their health care is better. It improves, if you're being paid well, your retention. The company has lower turnover, which helps everyone. There is the sense of knowledge that gets retained instead of people jumping from place to place. And the benefits of being paid well are on both sides. So it's for the company and it's for the individuals and the society, because it goes out beyond the person and their family. If you are paid well and you have adequate time off and you can have flexibility in your work and you can go to your kids' games, there's just so much that happens when we're thinking about all rather than how do I make the most money possible.
And you have me thinking of something that I've never crossed my mind before, but there's a way in which the low information voter population, they're busy surviving, a lot of them.
Mm.
They might be working more than one job. They might be juggling childcare or elder care or whatever. There's not a lot of luxury to, like, let me educate myself on what's going on in this country. So there is an disincentive for those who want to be in power to be like, well, we don't want them getting informed because they might find out what we're up to. Let's just keep this on the low down here and just tell them what they want to hear, because that may be all they have time for. And so they hear what they want to hear and they go, oh, okay, I'm totally down with voting for that. That's good stuff. Only they haven't had time or energy or wherewithal to learn more. And that, I think, is a big part of the problem here, this lack of good quality information. I was telling Joni, my husband and I went to a doctor's appointment a couple days ago, and sitting behind us was some guy listening to a broadcast saying Trump is a genius. Say what you may think about Trump. Trump is a genius. And we were like, let's move. Because it's all this misinformation, all this nonsense that just gets repeated and repeated and repeated. And he was sharing it with what looked like his wife. So here, like, oh, this is so great. You got to see this. I'm like, no. Let's get high quality information. Let's get people in a place where they have the time and energy to look into these things that will impact them. To me, it reminds me of investments. If you don't research what you're going to invest in, if you have the money to do investments, you're probably going to get burned. And it's the same thing if you don't invest the time and energy to research how things might go for you once a party comes into power or once you get a certain representative or whatever. So investment is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And investing in education is another part of this. I may have mentioned before, one of the people I follow, Jess Piper in Missouri, and she's in rural Missouri, Northwest maybe. And she talks a lot. She was a public school teacher. And she ran for office as a Democrat in this ruby red district 4 or 6 years ago, something like that, and lost, obviously. But she couldn't keep her job as a teacher and run for office. So now she's going from place to place, inspiring Democratic voters and inspiring people to run where there has been no opposition before. But as a teacher, she talks a lot about the state of education there. And this Missouri, which has been trifecta Republican for, I think, at least 20 years, has gutted public education so that the schools in her area are 4 days a week, lowest or second lowest in the nation for teacher pay, huge class sizes. And one of the unions is education, teachers' unions, who are not just fighting for their own salary, they're fighting for the kids. Now, as my mom was a teacher, my husband's mom was a teacher, and we can say that, and I had lots of relatives who were also teachers, that you don't do it for the money. You do it because you care about children. And to have that motivation to do that high quality education so that we have an informed populace, people who can think clearly. Uh, and that's one of the things that unions can do.
Yes. And I was listening to Coffee with the Contrarians, and Randy Weingarten was on there. And she is head of, I don't remember the name of the teachers union, but she's head of some very large teachers union. And she was talking about violence in schools. You know, you think about collective action, and collectively they can bargain and say, you know, we need the schools hardened. That was the word she used, so that there's less ability for a shooter to access the school, which is helpful to some extent. But wouldn't it be even more helpful if collectively we all said, we need to do something about our gun laws here, so that hardening the schools isn't necessary, or at least as much, that we have more of a preventative. And that again is a collective thing that we can do. And you know, the fact that today is a MayDay, 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 I just think is really, I mean, I kind of wish we had a MayDay every month or every 2 weeks, not every day, we'd be exhausted, but this drawing of attention, like this pulling, I think of a magnet and all the lead filings coming toward the magnet of like, all right, let's pull this together and have a voice that comes out, and we say what matters to us, and we come forward, and we're brave, and we're outspoken, and we exercise our First Amendment rights, and we don't just sit back and as I say, you know, twiddle our thumbs and wait for the midterms. Like, this is game on, people. This is a MayDay. MayDay, MayDay, MayDay. For anyone who hasn't heard, I mean, we only have 3 viewers right now, but you all need to know this is urgent. And you get people that are kind of like, oh, well, you know. And if you're the oh, well, you know person who's like, oh, it's just going to change and it's going to get better, I would say you're underinformed. Because that is not where we're at. I just would so love people to realize the level of crisis this is, instead of just like, yeah, you know, it's politics. It just is what it is.
Well, and I think back on the history of unions in this country and the real harm and risk that people, uh, their lives were at risk by doing this, because the system was rigged with the people who had all the power. And
Sounds familiar.
that's happening again. So, as I said before, we are standing on the shoulders of these people who have gotten us to this place, and we are backsliding so that the protections for health and safety in businesses are going down because the rules are getting decimated. And one thing we haven't mentioned yet, Christy, is that there is this risk reward for taking action. That if you are the primary breadwinner for your family and you choose to go out on strike, there is a real risk. And unlike European countries, our healthcare is mostly tied to our employment. So you think of a mother with young children going out, there is a real risk, and we understand that. So we're not saying, oh, everyone needs to go put their life, health, and family at risk, but take the step that works for you, that pushes through enough of your resistance to say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I cannot shop at a certain place who shining the light, we see that they are not good to their employees, that they, look at Amazon, which gets picked on a lot for good reason. The Amazon warehouse employees don't get breaks, that they're because they're held on quotas. And they are supervised, like they're monitored, and it's like crazy ridiculous. So if that's a choice that you want to make, that's something that you can do.
Well, and that's the thing about this May Day, this day of action. I was about to bring it up when you mentioned shopping. This is a no shop day as part of the strategy so that the richest of the rich can feel a little bit of pain when all the consumers say, you know what? I don't need to buy anything from you today, or I don't need to use my credit card at all today. Like it is a one-off, supposedly that it's just this one little day, but it also then lends itself to, oh, let me look at my purchases in general. I'm on this boycott email list of like, boycott these companies, boycott these different banks and these different airlines and these different, retailers, and they give reasons why, of course. And if we not only think about our purchases more consciously, there's a lot of complaint about fast fashion, for example, which is a bit of a tangent, but it's like, if there are things you don't agree with, then don't spend your money that way. It is a way of voting. It's been said before, we vote with our dollars. And where the corruption is, follow the money. So money, 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 money. This is a perfect day to go, huh? I don't think I need to work, perhaps, if that's possible for you. I closed my business today. It's not going to matter. It's not like anyone's going to really notice, but I notice. And I feel like, all right, today I'm not going to see clients. I am in solidarity with this movement. I'm not in school, so I'm not going to skip school, but I'm not going to work. And I'm not going to spend anything today. And you could just say, well, you're just going to go tomorrow. That's not the point. It's that we have collectively decided,
Right.
they did, and I've agreed to go along with it, collectively decided to say, not today. It may be another day, but not today. That's not going to be something I do because I want to send a message saying, I don't have to spend unless I want to. I still have the freedom to decide when and how I want to spend my money.
And when and how you spend your money is also what you value. And going full circle back to people who are employees, are they being valued? There is this hierarchy that seems to be proposed in our society, that there are these gazillion billionaires at top, and that all we little peons are interchangeable cogs in the machine. Well, that's not how I view life. That's not how I know Christy views life and human beings either. That every human has inherent worth. And I am no better than anyone else. I may be better at something, but that doesn't make me a better human, more valued human being. And I think in the vision of the new world that Christy and I want to create, every human has value. Every human has the same value. And being able to put our money and our time in the companies and the people who agree with that, who want to take care of their employees, who do not just run over people and view them as, Lego pieces that you can just throw away and get some,
Or snap together in a new
yeah,
form.
snap together. That we are all, there's this inherent beauty that when you look at a group of people, and just try this, just if you're on a bus or the subway or something, just look at everyone. Just see that they shine, that you don't know their history, you don't know the struggles that they had, you don't know how they voted. But you also don't know that if your soul had been plopped into their circumstances, that you would have done it any differently. That their soul is as valuable as your soul. And every soul has value and purpose.
And that's an interesting point about being popped into some other circumstance. because so many people are conditioned by what they see. I was reading something recently about a woman who's now clear that Trump is not for her, but she grew up in a family. Ooh, he who shall not be named was not for her, but she grew up in a family that was so anti-democrat, for one, like they're the devil, and I will claim that I am one. And it took her a while. She went to college. That was actually the moment where she kind of got away from the family and started looking around and going, huh, is that what I really believe? Is that how I'm really aligned? And so, yeah, you may have some conditioning and some programming to believe certain things. But the beautiful thing is that we can grow and evolve. We have neuroplasticity in our brains, people. We can create new neural pathways. Yay! Which can tell us, that doesn't seem to align with what I actually believe, what my values actually are. And then we can update and become more informed and more heart-centered. I mean, this is really about coming from your heart. The we hate Democrats thing to me is really a brain thing that's been stuck in there. And if you go to a heart level, oh wait, they're humans too. They just don't believe what I believe. It doesn't make them the devil. It doesn't make them vermin. It just makes them, oh, different from how they were raised. And so can we start from a place of knowing that we can grow and evolve and take in new information and update what we know so that we can become more one, more together, more unified on this day of unity. It just makes me sort of to think, oh, wouldn't it be great to just have more and more people go, oh, look what I just noticed. And like an awakening. I mean, it's not exactly spiritual, but it sort of is, of like, oh, these are my values. And I realize this is what I need to do in order to honor those values. And this happens to be a day where we get a chance to demonstrate that out in the world.
Right. And that is the not shopping and knowing where you can spend your money. And add one more thing, is that when you see people, not just today, but started today, just see how they shine. Just use your imagination a little bit and ask yourself, what don't I know? What don't I know about their story? What don't I know about what they believe and what they value and who they are? Who do they love? If you can step into that place of curiosity, then the world opens up that, oh, there's always more that we don't know than what we do about anything, everything, and everyone. So as we Mayday, Mayday, uh, let's also see the value and the worth in each other.
I think it's a very strong call to the we, if you will. This idea that we're all humans, we all basically want the same things, just, largely to feel connected, to feel valued, to feel like we're making a difference, to make sure we have all of our needs taken care of, shelter and food and so on. But that at the core, we really are more alike than we're different. And when we see that and we look at people, two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, that and the heart, if we can see people with our hearts and notice they have hearts, what a difference it can make in our own feeling of like, oh, the world's out to get me. That can happen sometimes where, oh, someone just jumped the line in the store. All right, can we just do what we need to do to soothe ourselves, let them be who they are? Perhaps, I mean, this isn't about being a doormat, but it is about, can we take it easier? Can we be kinder? Can we be more loving in every circumstance where we possibly can, including towards ourselves? Because I think this is part of the challenge here is feeling, if you're feeling like I'm not making a difference, I'm just too tiny, I can't do anything. Well, what can you do? What can you do to feel better? What can you do to be kinder? Maybe it's just saying to someone, hey, I like your shirt. That's a cool color. There may be just some way that you can connect with someone in a way that they'll be like, oh, I got a compliment on my shirt today. That's kind of cool. Someone noticed me. I used to get a lot of compliments on my hair when I was younger. And it was nice to be like, oh, well, thank you. But how nice of you to say something. And it doesn't have to be like a physical compliment. It could be something else that was really kind of you, the way you did, whatever. I don't know. We just have opportunities that we miss, I think, because we're really busy moving on to the next thing. And, oh, we don't want to impose or whatever. But I think there's a real opportunity here for us to be collectively acting on a different scale
Yeah.
that would then also be supportive of us as a whole.
Right. And sometimes it's just meeting someone's eyes and smiling, at the grocery store, and just see them as the unique human that they are.
Agreed. It reminds me of people paying it forward in the coffee line or in the grocery store. We love being part of something bigger. And so let's aspire to do that today, to be part of the collective action and the collective movement towards what we want, towards what we love, towards how we want to be. All right, on that note, shall we?
Yep.
Let's put hope into action together.
Together. Bye, everyone.
Bye.